Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third ever episode of Not Your Cliché Conversations with Tarini Sai Padmanabhuni. I am your host, Tarini Sai Padmanabhuni, and today's guest is a very special one. We have with us a recipient of the very prestigious Pradhan Mantri Rashtriya Puraskar Award. This guest is also the youngest recipient of investment in Shark Tank India. And honestly, I am more than happy to introduce her today. So let's begin by introducing Anoushka Jolly. Anoushka Jolly is the 14-year-old, she is the 14-year-old founder of Innerark Tech. She has founded an app called Kavach. She's been raising awareness for mental health awareness since like the longest time, and for the fact that she is so young and creating such great impact around the world is something to applaud in itself. And well, her achievements speak for herself. I'm so glad to have you, Anoushka, on board. Would you like to give an introduction about yourself as well?
Thank you so much for having me here. It's wonderful to talk to you. My name is Anoushka. I am actually 15 years old now, and
15.
I'm in 10th grade, and I've been working on bullying and mental health for the past 5 to 6 years now. I started when I was 9 years old because I myself experienced bullying. And then after I overcame it, I decided I didn't want anybody else going through the same thing. So I created a small blog website against bullying. I started writing about bullying, my experiences, and started researching. And then I also started taking sessions with schools. These sessions shifted online. I did some more groundwork, but I collaborated with NGOs and schools and students for about 3 4 years. And then I created Kavach, which was initially a bullying reporting mobile app. And that was what I pitched on Shark Tank India as well. And then I got funded. Now, Kavach is a holistic mental health app for adolescents. It's transformed into something that was earlier for bullying. Now it focuses on well-being, adolescent well-being as a whole, and that's what I'm working on. I'm really excited to kind of talk to people like you and continue to spread the word of why exactly mental health is so important for us youngsters.
Of course. And I think that's the whole reason I started this show as well, to talk to people like you and to get the perspective of people like you on to the public and to get the real deal understood in the best way possible. I'm so glad that you came. So yeah, let's start off with the first questions then. So let's start off with your journey. Of course, you mentioned what piqued your interest into getting into this world of entrepreneurship. What piqued your interest into touching into mental health and bullying in general, right? Uh, so in the initial stages, the first thing that I've heard from most people is that there is a lot of hesitance from the kind of environment around you as to why do you want to put yourself out there, or a lot of apprehensions in general. This is something that a lot of people generally face. So were there a few initial challenges that you faced in your journey of building coverage, or anything that you were working on with respect to mental health or cyberbullying or bullying?
I would say that because I started so young. I was about 9 years old when I started. I actually did not experience as much hesitation as I would have experienced if I started like even today, if I was older.
Right.
Because I feel like when you are a child and you're passionate, there is really nothing stopping you from getting where you want to. So what other people thought and what obstacles I would face, that did not really come to my mind when I started my website and started sending it out to people. And it was not a point of concern as to like what other people would think because I was so young. It just happened to be that way. But as I grow older and as I become more self-conscious and more aware of like what my perception is, there is a fear of starting something new. There's a fear of taking a step forward and taking a risk. So that's something that I would say everybody experiences when they start something new. But what really helps me is trying to think of failure as not that big of a deal, giving failure less importance than we actually do. Just as an example, when I applied for Shark Tank, I was about 13 and I had just vaguely come up with the idea for Kavach app on bullying reporting. So I applied for it, not expecting much. I just thought, let me just apply for it and see what happens. Now, when I did that, initially I was very doubtful because first of all I was 13 and the minimum age to apply was 18. Secondly, I knew that my what I was working on did not fit the mold of exactly what Shark Tank India is looking for. They're looking for entrepreneurs, not necessarily, you know, kids working on bullying and social entrepreneurship. But then my dad told me one thing and he said, you know, why don't you just try? Because the worst that can happen is that they look at your application and they don't let you go forward. That's it. That's the worst that can happen. And then I thought, yeah, it's really not that big of a deal when I think about it. The reward definitely exceeds the embarrassment I will feel, or whatever, the defeat. So then I applied for it, think with keeping that in mind, and I got through every round, and then I even went to Shark Tank and I presented my product, which was just wonderful. So yeah, keeping in mind that when you start off, you feel fear of failure, that's for sure. But then trying to look at failure as something that is not actually that big of a deal will definitely helps you kind of um, get over that and try new things.
That's amazing. So you spoke about your Shark Tank experience in brief, and I think that was one place where your app and your work got a lot of recognition on the national television, and as the youngest, fundraiser on the show as well. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's a huge kind of impact you're creating because you're not just setting an example for so many young entrepreneurs there. You're also, making mental health and bullying such a talked about topic in the national television, which is, I think, great. Like, so yeah, I mean, you can start off with talking about your Shark Tank experience, how that was. You mentioned you went through all the rounds, all of the process that you went through, and moreover, as a young teenager, how did you navigate through all of that? If you could just share that to our audience.
So I applied back in 2021 when season 1 was just coming out. So I didn't think that I would get in for reasons I explained earlier, but I used some technique. I did some working around here and there, and then I applied for the first round. The first two rounds were online. They were like long long forms you had to fill. So I filled those two forms. I got through. Then there was one in-person round at ITC in Delhi. So we went there. I got through that round as well. And then lastly, we were invited to Bombay for the shooting. And so the thing is that the shooting round was also kind of a round because you weren't sure whether your episode will obviously get
There,
in the
yeah.
show or not. But then luckily, I my episode did come in the show. It was episode 7 in season 1, and I saw myself. It was just a huge experience for me because I've been a Shark Tank fan since I was like 6 or 7 years old. My parents and I used to watch Shark Tank USA every single day from 9 to 10 p.m. when I was like growing up. So it was just a very big deal for me to get that opportunity and call myself a Shark Tank contestant. That's wonderful. And I would also say that that was the first experience where I've had really of. I filmed a TV show before. I was also on Baiju's Young Genius, but I was there for like one episode, and I was pretty small at that time, so they were all very nice and they were all like very welcoming. And on Shark Tank India also, the crew was very kind, but definitely there was this sense of like rush and this like sense of panic where everybody was running around and this episode and that episode. So it was very, very interesting to see like what exactly how a film set runs. And I would say that also the amount of anxiety, I don't think I've ever felt that much anxiety in my life. Shark Tank was like peak. Even when I met the prime minister, even when I met the president, I did not feel a shred of anxiety. But before my Shark Tank pitch, I was freaking out. And then suddenly we went into the tank, and I don't know, I felt like a sense of cool and just calm wash over me. When I looked at their faces and I saw myself standing in front of them, I gained that confidence back. So that was wonderful. But all in all, I think Shark Tank was a great experience because it taught me about how to kind of make keep calm before big things, stay calm. And I've met a lot of interesting people, shot something, in Bombay that was really cool. So
Oh, that,
stuff like that was really interesting.
is there anything you can share about in the, shootings that you had after Shark Tank?
I know, I think I know how tired film stars can be now, because like the amount of shooting, because we I my episode, I was there for like 3-4 days, and my episode was being shot, I think, third day or fourth day. So but we had to go to the set every single day, and rehearse from like morning to night. And it was really, really exhausting. And plus, I am not very good with Hindi. I can speak, like, I obviously, my family speaks Hindi, so I can speak Hindi, but I stopped learning it in sixth grade, so I'm not very good at it. And in Shark Tank, your pitch was supposed to be completely in Hindi. So like there was this particular word, I think it was Atmanirbhar. It really freaked me out when I saw that in my pitch. I was like, how am I gonna say this? But it was good. It worked out. It's just about communicating yourself. Not It doesn't matter whether you're doing it in English or Hindi, really.
That's right. So, you spoke about how you saw the judges, and then, you just went to a calm state and you were like, I can do this. So, of course, you then went on to receive funding from Aman and Anupam, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
how is that experience? Did you talk to them after the, uh, you know, later on, of course, you must have had interactions and stuff like that. How have they been? Or, I've seen posts where Aman has sent you over some, goodies and congratulating you and things like that. So I see the relationship between the founder and the investor has been great. So if you could share a few things about that, how has that whole experience talking and interacting with the sharks been?
No, I think it's been really wonderful because I mean everybody kind of knows they're incredible people. They've achieved incredible things, and they all have really, really, like, really, really valuable things to share, to say. So it's honestly, it's just such a blessing that I received funding from them. It was just a moment of disbelief. And then on top of that, the way that they've supported me, I've met them a lot of times after the episode is aired. And both of them have just kind of always given advice, have been important critical voices, while also being extremely, extremely encouraging. And that, whether that's through sending goodies or giving me valuable feedback, either way, I think it's really helped me, and it's been crucial in turning Kavach into what it's become.
That's amazing. So I think that covered my next question really well. Let's go on to the next part of it. So you told about how, this experience was even more of a like overwhelming experience than even meeting the president or the prime minister, which is, I think, speaks a lot about how appealing to the masses can be and that whole experience in itself. So, once you understood, once it actually hit you that you were the youngest entrepreneur on Shark Tank, or even if it hit you before that, how was your, what did you feel? Did you have the feeling of, oh my god, like, was it a sense of disbelief? Was it a sense of, I saw it coming? What was that like? you know
I didn't see it coming at all. I thought they'd kick me out after the first round because I wasn't like of age. So it was weird that they let me go in the show in the first place. I don't know why they did that. But I think After some point, it was definitely a fever dream till the moment that I stepped into like the set. Even till the last day we were rehearsing. But then, as I said, when the doors opened and you went to the tank, and like I just felt like, okay, I'm here for a reason. They selected me for a reason. I'm just gonna blow them away. And then I was able to, to some extent, and I got two sharks, which was wonderful.
Amazing. So I think that was very interesting to know because we don't really hear the perspective from somebody who's gained such a huge title. So that's very nice to know. Uh, Now, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs that are going to be watching this. A lot of my audience is students, and most of my audience is students, and a lot of them are enterprising students or people who want to get into the entrepreneurial world. So, for them, what kind of advice would you give to start off with their venture, or even advice to put themselves out there? Because it was only because you put yourself out there that you got the opportunity to take part in Shark Tank. Any
Yeah.
advice like this?
Um, See, I think putting yourself out there is the most difficult thing you can do, especially when you're a teenager, especially when you feel like you already have eyes on you at all times. Starting something to attract more attention might just be the worst outcome possible for a lot of people. But I would say that when you start something or when you do something, you need to kind of understand your motivation behind doing that. Is your motivation to earn money? Is it to gain fame? Or is it to help people? Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting either of those things. I mean, everybody has their own life. But for me, that's always been that I want to help people. So while I do get to talk to incredible people like you, and I get to kind of be a little famous because of my work, I know that what gets me going, what gets me to get up in the morning and work on this, is because I ultimately want to help people. I want to reach out to more and more people. And it's because I'm true to my inner motivations that I'm able to, continue what I'm doing. So just, I would say, be true to yourself, be true to what exactly you want. If you feel like, you do want to start something, you want to get it going, it would be a really good idea to talk to somebody who maybe like a mentor, a teacher, or a parent who can kind of help you figure out that path. I do think it's important to know that you really can't do anything alone. You can't have everything together on your own. And I always say that if you see somebody who has it together, they 100% have support. So talk to your parents, your friends, your teachers, and make sure that you're kind of getting that support system, getting the resources around you to help you build what exactly you want to. And I would also say that I understand there's a lot of pressure to be to do a lot of to do great things, especially at this age. A lot of kids and parents come and tell me that, like, you are doing such wonderful things. I wish my child was like this. Or, kids come and tell me, my mom is going to scold me because, like, she looks at you and she tells me, why aren't you doing this? But I think what people don't understand is that a good start doesn't always mean a great start. A good start doesn't always mean a great journey, sorry. And you cannot guarantee a wonderful life or fame or money or achieving your goals by just starting something. The idea is that the reason I'm able to keep this up and keep doing great things every year is because I genuinely want to. It's because I get myself up in the morning, I get myself to do it. And most of all, it's because I have a very strong support system with my parents and my team and my friends. But if you, as a parent, or if you, as an adolescent, expect yourself or expect your child to randomly get up in the morning and find a passion and do something, that would be unfair. Sometimes you don't always find passions young, you find them after the age of 40. So I would say, I'm going off topic a bit, but I would say that to all the young entrepreneurs, It's okay to get support. It's okay to talk to your peers, and to all the people who feel like they have no passion, or feel like they don't have any direction. It's all right. You don't have to figure it out right now. It's okay. You have your entire life to see what is it that you want.
I think that was very, very well put, and you addressed a very important topic, which, especially, I would say, like a lot of Indian society as well is comparison, and you addressed it really, really well. So I think that was very well said. Let's move on to the next part. So you spoke about how, you know, your main drive towards making Kavach big, or building Kavach, was to impact people and create impact, because you resonated with the whole cause, and you experienced it yourself, and you knew the kind of impact that you would create with it, right? So, well, you've impacted over 2 million adolescents with your initiatives. Maybe that's a short, a bit short of the actual number, but let's just put it that way. And that's a huge number. And all of this as a youngster is, without being said, a huge accomplishment. So, can you share, a few memorable stories that you've had along the way, where people have come up to you and told things about what you're doing, or any kind of real life instance that you've, really felt like, okay, what I'm doing is definitely on the right path. I'm sure it is, but kind of reaffirmed your values to the next level.
Um, so I think that I, when I used to do a lot of groundwork, for the first 3 4 years that I started, there was this one girl who she reached out to me over Instagram. I think she was about like 16 years old, and I was 11 or 12 at that time. And I would like to talk to a lot of people. I would like them to share their experiences with me, and it was great, not because I have any prior counseling experience or anything, but I would be able to kind of be there for them, and give them a helping hand, and also connect them to the right people when when they're ready to talk to somebody. And there was this one girl who was sharing her experience with me, of being essayed. And when I was listening to her, it was, although I knew that assault was a concept, I knew that it could happen. I'd never really met anybody or spoken to anybody who had ever experienced that themselves. So it was very, very new for me to talk to somebody who has been through that. And because I was so young, I think I had never really considered those themes in life. I'd never given them much importance or thought, because I was just kind of exploring, helping people with bullying. This was a first for me. And I spoke to her that day, not trying to be somebody who can solve her problems, because what she had gone through is something that, you know it's not easy to solve. It's not solvable in a lot of cases. So I was not trying to solve her problems. I was not trying to counsel her. I was simply just listening to her and asking her questions, and genuine curious questions. And I realized that in that moment, after we had spoken, she told me something very, very, very close to my heart. She said that a lot of people, when I talk to them about it, I don't usually talk about this, but to the few people I have, they will always try to tell me to look at the positive side. They will always try to bring me out of it and pull me out of it. But what they don't understand is, when you go through something so deeply traumatizing, you do not want to be pulled or yanked out of it. You just want to be able to wallow. You want to be able to wallow in your misery and remain that way. How are you going to be able to move forward in life if you don't accept that something terrible has happened? How, if you don't get comfortable with the discomfort that you experience after going through that? So she told me that, she didn't put it in the exact words that I'm putting it in, but she did say that, everybody says, कुछ और करो, इसके बारे में मत सोचो, but in reality it's haunting my all my thoughts and dreams. And I said that, yeah, it's I'm just here to listen. I'm not here to solve your problems, because I am not in that position. I'm just here to talk to you. And so what she told me in that moment made me realize that what I'm doing is not trying to magically solve people's problems. I don't want to do that. I don't think I can do that. What I want to do is empower adolescents, empower people to be able to gain the strength and the knowledge and the resources and the support to solve their problems on their own. It's not easy to go through anything, whether it's assault, whether it's being bullied. Of course, they are on different levels of uh, trauma, but they are all very, very difficult instances. And if you go through that and you shun your feelings aside, or you let somebody else solve those or fight those battles for you, then it would be something that will haunt you forever. So to be able um, to face that feeling, to be able to talk about it and express your raw thoughts to somebody else in a way that's completely letting your guard down, completely being honest and transparent about what you felt in that moment, that does help you, I think, heal the most. I'm no psychologist, I'm no therapist. Of course it looks different for everybody, but for that particular girl, from what she said to me, it feels like everybody is trying to get you to move forward. Sometimes you just need to stay there and think about it. So yeah, that made me realize that apart from just making me realize that I'm here as a listening, I'm here as a helping hand, it also made me realize that, what I'm doing is important, it's imperative. These people don't have anybody to talk to. So it would just be a huge step for me to be there and listen to them and give them the support that they need.
Absolutely. And to see you talk about this so passionately and, you know, in the depth of it is very nice to see because uh, it speaks about how much you resonate with the idea of creating this project of yours. So it's very nice to see such an enthusiastic founder like you. Uh, okay, let's move on to the next topic of discussion, which is, of course, the very prestigious, coveting coveted award that you receive, which is the Pradhan Mantri Rashtriya Bal Puraskar Award. So I'm sure, I think that must have been one of the biggest moments of your life, at least, even if you didn't comprehend as to how big of it an event in your life it was at
Yeah.
whatever age you were. But, you were so young also when you received it. But would you like to speak about that experience, how much it means to you, how it influenced you and your life and your trajectory, all of it?
So I received the award when I was in ninth grade. So I was about 14. Yeah, I was 14 years old. And it was in the middle of my, actually, we had study leave and my midterms were going on for ninth grade. So I was in my room and I was studying one day, and then my mom comes in and she's just like bursting with in tears, and she's just about to explode. And she looks at me and she's like, you got it, you got it. I'm like, I don't understand. I got what? And then she told me, you won the Pradhan Mantri award. And then it took me a moment to like understand what she's talking about, because she was so excited. And I had applied for it, I think, back in August. So I had no idea I would get it. So I was so confused, but then I suddenly understood what she's talking about, and I couldn't believe it. I was just also in a state of shock. And we were only told like 3-4 days before the actual events. We weren't told like a month in advance, so I had no way to process what was going on. But then 4 days later, we showed up to the hotel, to Ashoka, where we were staying. And we at first we went to, I think we met Miss Smriti Rani. and we visited, like we had Republic Day parade practice. We also shot some videos and stuff. We had some media interviews. So it was really really wonderful. The first few days were really important for me to get to know my peers who were also excellent. And my friend Alana Kola Gatla, she was amazing. Like we became best friends over those 2 3 days, and she plays chess. And it was just wonderful getting to know all these incredible people from such different parts of the world. I travel quite a bit, but I don't think I've traveled in India a lot. So I don't think I've ever been to like Gujarat. I don't think I've ever been to Telangana. All of those places have just been left unexplored. So when I met these all these incredible people from different parts of India, even picking up a little bit of their language, learning about their culture was so enriching, because I felt like I was actually there, where they come from. It was great. And then of course meeting with Smriti Rani, who is just an incredible woman, incredible human being. She is so intelligent and caring, and she took us out to eat golgappas and sweets on one of the days. I think it was the day we met our honorable Prime Minister. So we visited him the same day that we visited the Prime Minister Museum in Delhi, which is also very very interesting. And we went in a bus, all of us. We went to his residence, and we weren't allowed to take anything inside. Obviously, like no phones, nothing. So that was really interesting. And we were all sitting in like a room where he usually does his meetings. And I'd seen that in the news and stuff. I'd never been there. And we were all standing, and then he comes into the room, and you can feel like the entire aura change. It is so different. Like I just got goosebumps, and I couldn't control. I was just like, oh my god, oh my god, he's here. And my grandparents are like huge fans of him, of Mr. Narendra Modi. Like they love him to death. So I was just like, my dadi's gonna freak out when I tell her everything that happened. That it was great. And we were kind of in a line, and we were receiving our gifts, receiving our award, and get like posing for a picture. So it was great. And then we were all going in line. So it was my turn, and I was the last one to meet him. And then I went there, I touched his feet, and he said, "आप दिल्ली से हो?" And I said, हाँ जी मैं दिल्ली से हूँ. And he said, तो फिर आपको ठंड नहीं लगती होगी, because it was like January and everybody was pretty much freezing. I was like, नहीं नहीं मुझे नहीं ठंड लगती. And then he said, तो फिर आप prime minister बन सकते हो. So it was incredible. It was just, I didn't even know what he said. I was not hearing him at all. My dad tell me after that he said this. I was like, okay, whatever. I was just in shock. I'm like, why am I here? Why am I standing in front of him? But it was great. He's super funny. Like they don't let you in on how funny he is. He's like such a comedian. And yeah, and he was just joking around with us the whole time. We were sitting on the chairs, and he was sitting in front of us, and we were asking questions, and he gave such incredible answers. Um, and we had a really really good discussion about mental health, about adolescent well-being, and like how we can remove the stigma and all of that. But it was great, like the way he switches between being funny and being extremely intelligent. It's really interesting to watch. And after that, I think this was after we got awarded by our president. So this was a day after, and then before that, we were in the award ceremony at Vigyan Bhavan, where we got awarded, and we also got a picture. Like it's kind of like a class photograph. Like we all stood in line, and then she was in the center. It was really cool. Yeah, I think I've always wanted to meet her, because I just think she's just incredible. Like she's such an inspiration for so many women and girls. So it was just wonderful to meet her. And I was so scared to like go near her and like touch her. I was like, oh okay. And it was just, it was, if you see my video of like me meeting her, I was so freaked out. I was like standing like 2 meters away from her, and she was like, come close, how am I going to put the medal around your neck? So I had to like, um yeah, but it was great. And everybody there was so encouraging and welcoming. It was really, really, really wonderful. So after that, we also, yeah, I think that's it. But we also, the Republic Day parade was pretty fun. There were two, so we had one rehearsal, and then we had one final Republic Day parade. And on the rehearsal, I think the rehearsal was way more nerve-wracking than the final day because it happened before. It was like my first time, and my only time ever being in the Republic Day parade. So I was just like, in the cart, and it was freezing cold. It was like 2 degrees or something in January and 6 a.m. And I was borrowing all my friends' jackets and sitting in the cart and freezing. And then suddenly, when they gave you the signal, and they started like, the little car wagon thing started moving, the jeep, the jeep started moving. I just like, I forgot everything. I was just like, forget feeling cold. I'm It's fine, we're fine. And then,
Yeah. You're in
even
the
they
public
were all
paper.
just, yeah, they were all standing, and like the stands. So we were waving to everybody, and it was wonderful. But the most like nerve-wracking moment was when we were like at the end of the parade, when we were crossing the India gate. Like that was so incredible. Like I was gonna cry in that moment, the first time that, during our rehearsal. And I'd never seen it so close. Like, I could see the conscriptions of like the soldiers, their names. So it was really, really, really nerve-wracking. And then after that, on the final Republic Day parade, when we were like leaving, we actually just went on the street. So we were just kind of sitting in an open jeep and like proper get up on like in the street. It was a bit weird, but it was really, really, really fun. Like, I don't think it doesn't get better than that. Yeah, and my grandparents were definitely freaked out when I told them about what happened, like how I met the prime minister. It was fun, and I got to skip my midterm, so like it
Oh
was
yeah,
great.
that's the best part. You get to meet the honorable prime minister, and you get to skip the midterm. I think that's the best part. Uh,
Exactly.
that's amazing. I honestly, it's because of your hard work that you reached there, and it's so nice to see you so enthusiastic about this entire experience because it meant so much to you. And uh, to hear about that whole perspective from you firsthand is so nice because nobody really knows how it is to interact with the prime minister. And I think these days we've all gotten a little bit of a hint of how much of an amicable person the prime minister, honorable prime minister
Yeah.
is. So it's nice to hear that from you as well. uh, Amazing. So let's move on to our next part. I think this was a huge part in itself, and I'm so glad that you shared your whole experience. And it's very nice to hear about it. And I think after this, I'm gonna go watch that whole Republic Day parade again to just spot you and be like, yes, I know what she's talking about. So I'll do that. But anyway, let's move on to the next part now, which is about your recognition and media. So even as a part of your recognition as Rashtriya Bal Puraskar awardee or your recognition as Kavach founder, you must have gotten a lot of media recognition by conventional news media and stuff like that. So of course, I think your first interaction with the media must have still happened at a decently young age, and you're still a teen, so it is still pretty young age. So what was that whole experience like, when you first interacted with the media, knowing that okay, your voice is going to be heard by so many people? What was that like?
Um, I like yapping, so it was honestly kind of fun. I do talk a lot, as you can tell by my like 3 hour long answers in this interview. I love talking, so it was
Yeah.
it was not nerve wracking. It was super fun. I do enjoy like telling stories. A lot of people tell me that I'm a good storyteller, so
You are.
it's always fun to recall stuff and put my own spin on it. But I think like when you're media is always very different. They can be a little difficult to read because they always want you to say something and then you don't say it and then they'll try to get it out of you. But but they, for now, I think media has been really nice to me, and they've always given me the recognition that that's always motivated me, and they've always been mindful of what I'm saying, made sure that obviously there is no irresponsible message going out, the right kind of information, the right kind of resources are being put forward. So I think it's been good. I wasn't like, I wasn't nearly as nervous to talk or do the media stuff than I was to like meet the prime minister or go on Shark Tank or whatever.
Amazing. So, but when was your first media, like conventional media interaction? Do you remember, maybe one of your first at least? Do you remember what it was, when
Uh,
it was? Share a little bit about that experience.
I think my first conventional media interaction was during a Pradhan Mantri Puraskar. But before that, when my Shark Tank episode came out, then I went viral, so to say. Like every NDTV, Economic Times, Hindustan Times, they were all covering my story. But at that time, I because it was like pandemic times, it was lockdown, so I wasn't going and doing interviews as such. I did one interview with Miss Barkha Dutt. She called me to her We the Woman Global Town Hall event, and that was also during lockdown. That was my first proper interaction with like such a famous and reputed journalist ever. So that was really really interesting, and she's super like she's incredible. I mean, I also read her book that she wrote about her experience reporting on the COVID stories. That was really wonderful. And so, yeah, so that was my first interaction, I would say. But since it was online, it didn't feel like it was that much of a, it was like very nerve wracking. But yeah, my first proper, I would say, was definitely during Bal Puraskar, when they would kind of like shove the mic into your face and like tell us, tell us, tell us. So it was fun still.
That's nice. And I think all your fellow awardees felt the same, so you could laugh it off. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's nice. Great. I think we've covered the recognition in media part. And I think it's quite amazing to just realize that I'm talking to still a teenager, because you usually ask these questions to people who are much older, and I'm honestly so happy to be talking to people like you. So I just want to put that out there before I continue the rest of this podcast, because this is just such a nice experience to get your whole perspective on this. Okay, let's go to your next part, which is about your current work. So, what is your current progress with Kavach or Inner Arc Block Tech, which is your company? And you know, do you have a focus on immersive tech? You also mentioned that you've worked or you're working towards Web3. The metaverse is something you look to. So things related to that, tech advances. You know, uh, how do you see technology playing an important role in democratizing the access to mental health resources, even with respect to Kavach? What is your perspective on that?
So I would say that technology is taking the world by storm. We can't deny that whether it's Web3 or it's AI, it's everywhere, right? And so if we're evolving in the sense of like using new technology, we also need to evolve how we provide help to other people. Now, obviously, it's not feasible to go out and physically, give everybody mental health help because they might not have the financial resources or the standing or even the mindset to be able to accept that. But what we can do is use our online tools like AI or like a metaverse to make that help a little more accessible to more people. So what I'm currently working on, I've launched an app called Kavach, which is a second version of the bullying reporting app. So it basically has a lot of self-help content for adolescents where they can learn about well-being and mental health issues, and they can then also join communities talking about their shared experiences with other adolescents. So what I wanted to do with that is create a community of adolescents who feel empowered to solve their own problems, who are willing to kind of support each other and create a system of support, which a lot of adolescents don't actually have, because of just how we're evolving. So that was my aim. And then when I started taking that to people, a lot of people would tell me that, I usually go to chat GPT or AI when I have a problem. So I'm also working on something related to AI, kind of like something on the lines of a chatbot that will help you, um, provide some more personalized help and more practical solutions to when you're going through a problem. And I also think that when we're talking about therapy, not everybody can afford therapy. Not everybody, is it's not destigmatized yet. So I'm trying to use the metaverse, Web 3.0, to provide that help as well. But I would say that it's less of a metaverse, it's more of a gamified kind of mental health solution, because the aim is not to, immerse them. The aim is to make them feel like they're really there and to kind of provide that real life experience, but cutting costs and making it more anonymous, of course, so that they don't feel fear of reaching out.
Amazing, amazing. I think the fact that you spoke about gamifying this whole experience, I think adds up a whole other notch of creativity and involvement from the user. So that's amazing. Uh, let's go on to our next topic, which is your future vision. So, your future goals, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, where do you see yourself, either personally or with Kavach or whatever that you're working on? And also, what are the initiatives or projects that you're looking into currently apart from this? Do you look on broadening this to other spaces, or is there any other space that you find yourself interested in? Anything that you want to talk about in those lines?
So I do think that I found my passion somewhat. I will definitely continue this. I want to work in the mental health space forever. But that being said, that's not the only space I want to work on. I'm also looking at a lot of women's issues. I'm interested in that, on gender equity and issues like that. In As for Kavach, I think that as we keep advancing, as we keep growing with the technology, it will definitely be able to reach out to a lot of more people. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we will be kind of helping pretty much every student in India and hopefully in other countries as well. So that's the aim, to first take it to all the students in India to help them, and then think about how we can make it a global and create a global presence for Kavach. Yeah, but the idea is that I'll always stay true to the idea of empowering other adolescents to help themselves, to promote values like independence and caring for yourself. So that's something that will always be there, even without technology. Yeah.
Amazing. So that's great. Now, I think we've spoken about your future plans. Let's move on to, let's say, the closing part of this podcast. Let's come to some last final advices that you would like to give young entrepreneurs. You delved into this a little bit, but let's wrap it up in a way that you're talking to a young entrepreneur currently who's watching this, or multiple young entrepreneurs, and they want advice on how to start, how to get rid of that initial, hesitance around them, and how to identify their passion, because that is honestly a tough job too in itself. So these few things that you would like to give as an advice to young entrepreneurs.
So, firstly, I would say that when you are identifying your passion, try to experiment, even things that you feel like might be interesting, but you've not tried it yet. Try all of those things, get that exposure, and understand that what when you do something, what feels like fun, such that you don't feel like taking a break from it. And on the other hand, what feels like something that you are counting down the seconds to make it get over. And secondly, I would say that getting over that fear of starting can be difficult, but you can always get other people with you. You can start this with your friends, you can get the help of your teachers. It's always easier to kind of have somebody else along with you when you're starting this journey than always taking on the pressure yourself. And if you want to get the word out there, then certainly use your school's resources. So you might have a school newsletter, you might have a school gossip, anything. Get that information out there, and keep the excitement of like what you're building, keep that intact. And I would also say use your school's resources if they have a lab, if they have something that you would benefit from using. Then of course don't be afraid to ask them. I'm sure your school would like to help you, or your parents. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's move on to the final part of it, which is the tips and tricks for the audience. So this would ideally deal with, practical tips or tricks, or even we call it tutorials that you'd like to give to the audience. So anything based on your personal experience. There's a lot of stuff you can get right off the books, but stuff that your experiences taught you as absolute practical tips for managing a startup while still in school, or managing a startup as someone who's a student at any point
Okay.
in their life. Resources and tools that you found is important in your journey, and just in general, final resources that would help entrepreneurs in securing funding for their projects.
So funding is something that I'll be quick with it. So for funding, try to think from the investor's perspective. Try to think from like what exactly what they would want. If you were an investor and you had to put your hard-earned money in something, what would make you believe in it? Secondly, find the right kind of investor. Not everybody has to go to a venture capitalist or a top VC firm. They will not be able to get the personalized attention that they need. Sometimes you can go to a small time investor, you can go to an angel investor, um, you can get a grant. I mean, it depends on like where you want to take your initiative. Does not always have to be the VC way. And for managing your school with your startup, or whatever you're doing outside of school, time management is key. So learn to not procrastinate. It's a bit of a complicated skill, but when you actually understand that procrastination does not come from laziness, it comes from fear of failure. So addressing those inner motivations, addressing that can help you speed up your productivity. Make a timetable, write down your to-do list. Make sure you're getting what you want from the day. Of course, that's something that I won't be able to fit in such a small time, but I do talk about it a lot in my sessions in general. So if anybody watching this wants to know more, then they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn or anywhere, and I can give them some tips on like how I manage.
Yeah, for sure. We'll put the links in the description as well. Is okay. I think we've addressed most of it. Is there anything else we missed out in the last question? Okay, I think we covered it all. All right. I think that's pretty much it. We shall wrap it up. I know it's been almost an hour, but your insights were amazing, and I think it was an amazing. You know, you as a third guest for the show is the best thing I could have asked for. Our audience is going to be incredibly enlightened from this episode. Uh, you know, it's honestly amazing to know that a person like you has, I mean, a person in the sense like someone who started her startup at 9 years old, built out of something that you face personally and made, such a huge impact using it is something that's appreciable from so many different aspects. So many kudos to you for that. Uh, and also, a small thing that I think a lot of people wanted me to ask you through this is basically how are you managing your academics? Because I think we'll end with that note. You mentioned, of course, how can you balance studies and this stuff, but I think a big question that a lot of people had was, a lot of people watching this are also college going students. So uh, you're not in college, but at the same time, a lot of people do want to know how academics can be managed because, of course, timetables and all that help. What kind of mindset is it that you go with? We'll end it with that, and that will be your ending note.
So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not an academic powerhouse. I don't have like the best grades in the world. But it's about setting realistic expectations and working your way up, improving a little bit day by day. So as an example, in ninth grade, in my midterm, I got a 41 out of 56. And then in my second term, I got a 51 out of 56. So jumping those 10 points, how it wasn't like I was perfect in the beginning. It was just that I was able to recognize where I'm lacking, strategically work my way up, create a realistic plan, and then jump my way up and get go from like 41 to a 51. So it's all about having the motivation to, it's all about being realistic, setting important goals for yourself, and of course having somebody who can help you track those goals, whether it's your friends or your parents or your teachers. So yeah, let them in on what you're working on.
All right. We'll also just segue a little bit to the last part of it, which is, do you think that academics are extremely important or play an important role in the type of journey that people like you or in the entrepreneurial path want to take?
So I do. But the problem is, I don't think that academics are important because you learn something crucial from academics. There is really nothing that you learn from academics that you won't be able to figure out reading a book by yourself, or something that life can teach you. But academics is something that is a challenge. It's something that you are not always going to be good at math. You might just be an English person like me. You might be very, very good at biology, but you might be horrible at chemistry. So, academics is less about the subject itself, but about the battle you need to fight to get there. So, for example, for me, I've hated chemistry since ninth grade, but working my way up from that, getting myself from a 5 to a 7, which is 7 on 7 is the highest you can get in my school. So that jump is what contributed to my character, to my development, to my personal development. It was not because I like chemistry or started liking it more, or it helped me in any way. I don't even want to do anything related to chemistry, but the skills that I learned from that, what it taught me, the motivation that it gave me of overcoming something, that's what academics teaches you. Living in the rat race, living with other people, learning to fight your battles, learning to fight with other people, against other people, academics is all about that. And maybe I wouldn't mind if it was structured in a better way, but you have to learn the best from what you have.
Absolutely. And I think on that note, we'll end today's podcast. Thank you so much, Anushka, for coming on the show. It was amazing having you once again. And yeah, I think if the audience has any questions, you can hit us up in the comments or you can message Anushka or connect with her on her LinkedIn or other socials. That being said, we shall end today's episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. That was it for today's episode of Not Your Cliche Conversations with Tarini, where we talk about everything but the cliche. Thank you once again, Anushka. This was amazing having you. Bye bye, everyone.